So BusinessLink acknowledges and respects that we are on traditional land, meeting grounds, territories, gathering places, and traveling routes of Treaty 4, 6, 7, 8, and 10, and the home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge the lands of those who have come before us, reside here now and in the future. Welcome once again to From Idea to Launch, Small Business Startup Basics. Starting a business is very exciting, but it can also be very overwhelming. So today's session will walk you through the key steps to take your idea from concept to launch, including planning, funding, and compliance essentials. This webinar, like I said, is part of our Small Business Week 2025 lineup, which is a time to celebrate the passion, innovation, and resilience of Alberta entrepreneurs. My name is Linda Posada, and I'm the event specialist here at BusinessLink. If this is your first time joining a BusinessLink session, well, welcome. BusinessLink is a government-funded nonprofit organization that helps Alberta small businesses start, grow, and thrive. We offer free one-on-one support, market research, training, and resources to entrepreneurs at every stage of their journey. On Monday, we actually hosted a more in-depth session about who we are, the services that we offer, and how we support Alberta entrepreneurs. So if you're interested in learning more about BusinessLink and the tools available to you, you can check out the recording on our YouTube channel. Now, today, I'm really excited to introduce our speaker for this session. I have David Beta here with me, Manager of Client Services here at BusinessLink. David and his team work directly with Alberta entrepreneurs every day, offering free advising, business strategy guidance, and access to programs and resources to help Alberta small business owners succeed. David is very passionate about innovation, startup planning, and also empowering entrepreneurs to take those first steps toward launching their dream business. So David, thank you so much for being here today. The floor is all yours.
Awesome. Thank you so very much, Linda, for that great introduction. And it's always a pleasure to talk to entrepreneurs across Alberta. This is one of my favorite topics, really taking how you can take an idea and implement it and start a business. So we'll go through that here today. Great. So let's get going. And for today's session, we'll be learning about three key aspects about, again, idea to launch. The first will be talking a bit about planning and research and how you can develop a business plan. Next, we'll talk a little bit about financing and where you're going to maybe get money to start your business. And lastly, we'll talk about the actual startup steps. So what do you need to do to get your business legally operational? And as Linda mentioned, feel free to use the chat and Q&A box. But I do want to know a little bit more about each of you. So if you could maybe take a moment to just maybe share in the chat what your business idea is. So what are you looking to start? Or maybe if you've already started, yeah, what is your business idea? And I'll let Linda maybe share with me a little bit about yeah, what we're maybe seeing in the chat. So again, yeah, just please share just what types of businesses do we have coming through the door here.
We have someone who says wedding event planning business. That's amazing. And then another event planning business and marketing. We have bookkeeping and tax preparation, fragrance consultations, looking for grants. That's fair. A
Yeah,
bookstore. Amazing. Evaluation and research, video production. Wow, so much variety here.
awesome. That's great to see. I think there will be a little bit of something for everyone. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing your business ideas here. Yeah, hopefully there'll be a few tips along the way to help you get going.
Definitely.
Great. So our first section, we'll talk a little bit about business planning. And but before I do that, I do want to chat briefly about what an entrepreneur is. And I think this slide just really articulates, really an entrepreneur can go by many, many different names, whether you're an owner operator, a founder, a gig worker, self-employed, contractor. It doesn't really matter. I think at the end of the day, you're looking to, again, take a venture, you're looking at creating something hopefully for profit. And you're going to be, yeah, starting your own small business. So again, it doesn't really matter what you call yourself. I would say you would be an entrepreneur. So really, first things first, when you're looking to start your own small business, I think it's important to really do a self-assessment, to really look at, really, are you ready to be an entrepreneur? And there's a few key questions here that can really help you to understand that a little bit more. Really, the first one would be kind of your why. So, why are you looking at starting a business, right? Is it because you're looking to convert maybe a hobby, something you love, into maybe a profitable business venture? Maybe you are currently looking for employment and are finding that a little bit challenging. So, you're maybe going to look at starting a business to support yourself. Um, Other people might be looking to start a business on the side, right? To maybe learn a new skill. So there could be many different ideas about why you want to start a business. So I think you just should take the time to reflect on that. Another few key questions would be, do you have the personality, skills, education, experience, and mindset? Personality, are you more an introvert or extrovert? How do those relate to the type of business you're looking to start? Do you have the skills, right? Are you good at maybe putting things together? Um, Maybe like a handyman, or maybe you're very creative, right? And you're good at maybe writing or drawing or painting. So really look at the skills that are maybe needed to start your business. Next, some businesses might require post-secondary education in a particular field or trade. Quite often there might be also learning on the job, training on the job, right? So if you're going to start a restaurant, you may want to go and work in a restaurant, learn a little bit how the operations work before maybe starting your own restaurant. And lastly, mindset. Do you have kind of a lot of the mental aptitudes to, again, deal with maybe the stresses of running a business? Really think about how much time you're willing to put into starting a business. Um, Many businesses do require significant hours to meet the challenges of running a business. Really think about if you have enough money, where is the money going to come from? Maybe not just how much money you need to start the business, but how are you going to maybe support yourself when you're in business? Maybe it's going to take a few months for you to be cash flow positive. So how are you going to pay rent, pay your utilities, buy food, all of those things. Next, when we talk about risk, really when you're starting your own business, it really isn't necessarily a sure thing. So are you okay with that risk that you could start something up and maybe you're not going to see money rolling in for a few months. Are you okay with that? What if the idea doesn't actually work? Maybe there's not enough a big enough market for it, or maybe there's too much competition. So really think about that. And lastly, do you have a support system? Do you have some cheerleaders, maybe family and friends, who are there to support you when maybe times are tough? Or maybe have some skills that maybe you're lacking that they can really help you out. So again, that self-assessment is really key to understanding if you're going to look at starting your own business. And I will mention we might have time for a few quick questions throughout the presentation here. So again, feel free to type those in the chat and Linda may mention them to me here. Okay, next, moving on, finding the right opportunity. And I think the big part of finding the right opportunity is it's really helpful to look at a problem that you're looking to solve in the world today. And that's how a lot of business ideas are born, is by finding that problem, and your business would maybe offer the solution to it. So again, finding that problem that you can maybe solve and something that people are maybe going to pay money for. Next, really look at brainstorming potential solutions, right? There's maybe a variety of solutions to problems. So I'd encourage each of you to kind of do some brainstorming around that to maybe see if there are different ideas that you can maybe consider. And part of that is early research. So you do want to explore things like maybe trends that are happening in the marketplace. How big is the market size for it? Are there maybe a lot of competitors or really not much competition for your concept? Really think about who your key target market will be, how you might look at reaching them. And then again, maybe search online, see if there's any articles of interest. Search on social media, see again if there's any interest with maybe what you're looking to offer. Next, you kind of want to really refine your concept, look at designing your value proposition, and really identify your ideal target market or your customer segments. So yeah, really think about again taking a step back from your idea, kind of evaluating it, really thinking about what makes you unique, and again, who you're actually going to target for your business. You may want to look at validating it to see if there is enough value of what you're offering to your customers, that they're going to really pay money for it, and that there's a large enough market. And lastly, really think about ways of making your brand stand out. You want to set yourself away from the competition. So, how are you going to do that? What's going to be your unique selling proposition, as that usually goes by? And that's all about kind of finding the right opportunity. So, I briefly alluded to it, but doing market research is really important when you're starting your business. You want to be very prepared. And market research is the process of gathering information and intelligence, again, relevant to your business concept. It could include things like your overall market, looking at potential customers, again, the overall industry, your competition, observing trends that are maybe happening. And really, it's kind of a organized approach. I have a few steps here of how you would go about doing research. Um, you'd review the research and then look at making decisions to apply the research. So again, it's all about making smart business decisions from that research and data that you're collecting. Now, there's a lot of different ways you can go about doing research, market research. There's primary market research, which is collecting information firsthand, or there's also secondary market research, so looking at existing information that's already out there. And now the data that you can collect, it can be both qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative really helps to answer the hows and the whys behind behaviors. It could include people's feelings, their perceptions around things, also their attitudes and behaviors. So a little bit more about the why. And looking at quantitative, this is a little bit more factual and deals a lot with numbers, percentages, and quantities. And really, it helps answers the questions about maybe how many, how much, and how often. So you're going to use a combination of both primary and secondary market research, again, through your research activities. And I just want to provide you with a few different examples about how you might be able to do primary market research and secondary market research. Like I mentioned, primary market research is about collecting information firsthand yourself. And this could be directly from customers. So you could look at, let's say, maybe doing some focus groups and engaging with prospective customers and clients. You could also do surveys. That's quite common. So you could create a one-page survey, maybe use some of the tools out there like SurveyMonkey to again get some feedback from your prospective customers about what they're looking for, maybe what they're currently doing. And yeah, usually a minimum data set of about 30 surveys. The more the better. So kind of keep that in mind when you're doing your surveys. And next, observation. So if you're looking to, let's say, open a clothing store, um, maybe you can go and observe how many customers are currently going to competitor clothing stores. What types of customers are going in? What are they walking out with? Is it just, are they walking out with maybe no shopping bag, or maybe one shopping bag, or maybe five shopping bags? So again, doing some of those observations can really be instrumental in making, again, better decisions with your business. And primary market research is really, really important. Some people discount it, but I would say if these are going to be your potential target market and customers, you want to understand as much as you can about them. So again, do that research, do some surveys, talk with them, document everything. And then once you've done that, you can really look at the results and start making, doing an analysis of it, and then seeing how that will help you to make better business decisions. Okay. And then next we have secondary market research. And really secondary market research, like I alluded to, It's really about information that's already out there in the world. And secondary market research can come from various sources. Obviously, the internet is a tool. There could be databases that have information that you can pull. And secondary market research is quite often a little bit more broad. Um, so statistics, places like Stats Canada, you can find really good data on a huge number of different topics in industries. So definitely I would encourage everyone to check that out. Um, I think there's also Google Trends as well, a really unique tool you can kind of see using keywords how various industries, sectors, or keyword searches have evolved over time. Secondary market research could also include like news articles, information out there. Like I mentioned, there's lots of databases that are available. Um, an example might be IBIS World and Statista. Those are two very common databases. We have access to those at BusinessLink through our market research team. So again, if you're looking at doing market research, secondary market research, our research team can help with that. Awesome. So jumping in, so how might you be using all of this market research that you're doing? I would say that will help you with your business planning process. And there's a tool that came out a number of years ago called Business Model Canvas. It's kind of like a one-page business plan. It was created by Strategizer, and a lot of people use this tool to help them kind of vet their idea before committing to writing a full-fledged business plan. And I really like this tool because it can be done very quickly within an hour or two, and it helps you kind of see all the various elements on one single page and how the different elements are kind of connected. And we just have a graphic here just illustrating what it is. Again, there's 9 different building blocks that comprise of Business Model Canvas. This is a free tool that anyone can download and find online. And again, it helps you to, I guess, position your business, really figure out some of those finer details about your value proposition. So, what are you offering, your customer segments, who you're offering it to, how you're going to make money through your revenue streams, those relationships that you're going to have with your customer. And next, some of the cost structure would be your expenses, and then your key partners and key activities and resources, again, would relate more to the operations of your business. So again, check out Business Model Canvas, a really great tool. Some of you may have heard of another tool called Lean Canvas. Very similar concept to this, so that's definitely something you can, again, Google and find yourself. And again, can be done very quickly. So I encourage a lot of people maybe take the time to do this exercise first before jumping straight into a business plan. Because maybe there will be some things that maybe don't sense or maybe aren't going to work, right? Maybe it's hard to find some key partners, or there's not an appropriate channel to reach your customers, or maybe there's not enough customers, or maybe there's some expenses that will be too costly for you. This will help you to kind of identify that very early on. So kind of the next stage, again, all this research that we're doing, maybe you do business model canvas, you could plug that into writing a business plan. And yeah, I'm just curious to know, just by maybe a yes or no in the comments, how many of you have written a business plan before? So if you could just take a moment to put that in. Okay, we have some yeses coming in, couple no's, so a little bit diverse. Perfect. So some people have attempted it. That's great. Great to see. Yeah, hopefully I can give you some tips here again to help you in the preparation of that business plan. So a business plan is still required. It's something that's been around for decades upon decades, and it's normally a written document, about 15 to 30 pages, and it really describes and alludes to why you're starting the business, what your goals are, and how you're going to achieve them. It really covers all the major aspects involved in running your business. So that includes everything from identifying your product and service, your marketing, your operations, and your financials. And really, I say the value is actually in the process of writing a business plan, that you really gain the most amount of wisdom. And it really helps you ensure that you've done adequate research and you're making well-informed strategic business decisions to aid in running a profitable business venture in the future. Okay, so again, this is a little bit about a business plan. Again, it's a roadmap, very useful if you're looking for funding, maybe through a financial institution or bank. They're going to need to see a business plan. It can help you to kind of, again, do that research to test the idea feasibility and a good action plan to look at after you start your business. You can flip to page one and say, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do first. So a lot of people equate it to like a recipe when you're baking a cake. The business plan is a document for you to reflect on, and yeah, just a really good actionable item to help you to implement starting your business. Okay. Now here's just a few of the different types of sections that you might encounter in a business plan. Very briefly, your executive summary is usually a 1 to 2 page summary of your business plan. Usually you would write that at the very end to summarize things. Your business description would describe a little bit about what your business venture is. Again, your market research, we talked a bit about that. That would include your industry research. It would include your competitors and trend information. Next, you'd dive into your marketing and sales strategy. That could include your 4 Ps, so product, price, place, and promotion. Management and team, so who's going to be operating the business and what is their experience. Operations would deal more with your systems, your processes, your workflows. What do those day-to-day things look like? And your financials would include, again, all of the accounting side of things. That would be your balance sheet. It would be your cash flow. It would be your income statement. All of those things would encompass your financials. And lastly, your appendix and references. Appendix would be additional supplemental information that you maybe wanted to include. So let's say you're a restaurant, maybe you could include the menu as an appendix item. Let's say if you're making candles, maybe you have the recipe for your candles on there. Maybe you have some sample social media posts of what your first post could look like on Instagram. That could definitely be an appendix item. And lastly, don't forget references and sources. So where are you getting the data from? You don't want to just be making things up, right? Where can you reference some of the information? Where was it pulled from? Was it pulled from a magazine, maybe a news article, maybe from a database? So what are those references? Okay. And how do you go about writing a business plan? There's tons of great ways to get started. I think at the end of the day, you just have to start, whether you're taking a pen to paper or just starting to type something on the computer. You can definitely take a look at sample business plans. There's lots of good examples available online if you just do a quick Google search. And that could also include templates. We do have our interactive business plan builder tool here at BusinessLink. That can be found on our website if you're really struggling and kind of want to have kind of a system to kind of prompt you to ask questions and you can just kind of input answers. That tool is available for free for everyone. Again, explore online resources to help you out. We have some resources on our website, some videos. I know I did a session a while ago on writing a business plan in the age of AI. We also have another one on market research in AI, so you may want to check those out on our YouTube channel. And again, like I said, I think the important thing is just getting started. And whether it's paper or digital, just get writing. And really look at getting feedback along the way, right? And input from maybe trusted family members and friends, other business owners. And additional planning tools, one caveat I do want to throw out there, just be careful with AI. You can create a business plan in literally 30 seconds, but I would say what you're going to get back is very general content. It's not going to be specific to your unique business idea. And there's some real danger in doing that. That again, your business plan needs to be unique to you. It needs to be very specific. So do take the time to, again, do your research, put your ideas together. I would say maybe using AI could help with maybe some of the market research and maybe help in creating maybe some of your infographics and graphics. In terms of content, I would probably suggest try to use your own words first. You can also, once your business plan is done, run it through AI and maybe ask it to improve on some of the points, maybe try to improve the grammar, any mistakes, things like that. That is a better approach than, again, having AI write your business plan for you. You're going to spend way too much time kind of correcting it from there. I think look at putting it together yourself and use AI as kind of an intern to help you out with very specific points. And yeah, there's lots of great AI tools out there, ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Microsoft Copilot, and it's probably endless, but those are some of the main ones that you could kind of consider using. Perfect. We're gonna jump to our next section here, which will talk a little bit about financing. And I kind of break it down. There's really four big questions that I think every business owner should kind of ask themselves when developing an idea for a business, and really try to figure out what are those biggest business expenses going to be. Quite often, they might be things like building lease, staffing, maybe equipment cost if you're buying any machinery. Perhaps it could be inventory if you're a product-based business, or maybe marketing costs. Maybe you're going to do a big, huge event that's going to cost $50,000. So really think about what are those biggest business expenses going to be. Next, you should probably look at adding all of those up and getting an approximate dollar total. Um, and that will kind of help set the stage about how much money it's going to take to start the business. And then really think about how much you're personally going to be investing into the business. Um, some people often, again, save their money up, and that's what they're going to be looking to invest. So think about how much you're willing to maybe put on the line. Are you going to want to put everything you've saved up or just maybe half of it? And then if you don't have enough money, where will the remaining money come from? So if it's going to, let's say, cost 100,000 to start the business and you only have 50,000 that you're investing yourself, where's the additional $50,000 going to come from? So really give some thought about that. And it's good to ask those questions because I think you need to be realistic about if you're looking to start a restaurant. Again, that could be a few $100,000 to get going. If you don't have a lot of money to get started with it, that could change your idea. So maybe instead of starting a restaurant right off the bat, maybe you do a smaller catering business, making cookies and selling those from home. That could be done for a relatively low amount. Or maybe a food truck, right? Maybe that's a little bit cheaper than getting a brick and mortar restaurant. So again, it just helps you to position about um, again how the financing affects your business and if you have enough money or not. So in terms of financing options available, um, there's kind of five main categories to kind of explore. The first being debt financing. And this is, I think, simply put, like getting like a bank loan, right? So money that you're going to get and it must be returned with interest paid on it. Okay, so think of like a bank loan, that's debt financing. Next, we have equity. So if any of you watch Dragon's Den, this is money received in exchange for a portion of the company's profits in the future. Again, so people are maybe taking a stake ownership in the business. Again, that's equity. Specialized financing programs. So there could be programs available for particular demographics or communities in Alberta. A few examples might be if you're a young entrepreneur, there's Futurepreneur. If you're 18 to 39 years of age, if you're a woman-owned business, there's Alberta Women Entrepreneurs. If you're living in rural Alberta, so outside Edmonton or Calgary, there's Community Futures. So there could be, again, specialized financing available. Next, grants and subsidies. These could come from a federal, provincial, or municipal level. And this is money that may or may not need to be repaid. And it's usually for a very specific purpose. This could also include like tax subsidies and rebates too. And lastly, there could be some creative ways to maybe explore. I have, for example, crowdfunding that could be an alternative source of financing to help you get the business up and running. So again, those are typically the main financing options that you might encounter. So again, thinking about how you're going to fund your business, I would say the most common way to get the business up and running is using your own money. So personal financing is by far the most popular and most common way that business owners get up and running. Next most common would probably be bank loans from financial institutions, again, to supplement that. And then next, you might have business partners that are going to jointly invest with you, or family member or friends as well. And kind of looking at debt financing, there are what's called the 5 C's of lending. We won't have time to go through those today, but just be aware they're capacity, capital, conditions, collateral, and character. And these help you to understand, kind of from the bank or lender's perspective, about what they're looking for. Again, do you have assets? Do you have the education and experience relating to the business? Are you putting in money yourself? Do you have a good enough credit score? All of these things are included within the 5 C's of lending. So again, looking at the different options available to financing your business, we talked a little bit about personal money. That could include money you have saved up, perhaps RRSPs, credit cards, personal lines of credit. Next, other options could be like finding investors or looking for a business loan from a commercial bank. And then grants could also be a potential avenue as well, depending on what your business is doing. Awesome. So that concludes our section on financing. And we're going to jump to our last section here, which will talk a bit about kind of getting your business up and running legally. And there are a number of different steps that you do need to complete to get your business up and running. And we're just going to walk through steps 1 to 6 to kind of help you kind of position things. And really, one of the most important steps is really choosing your business structure. And this refers to how your business is going to be set up, how it's going to operate and conduct business. It's going to help in determining things like what your liabilities are, how you're going to be paid, and how you're also going to be taxed. So it's a big decision. If you're not comfortable doing that yourself, definitely look at talking with or engaging with a lawyer and or accountant before making that decision. So there's a lot of different business structure types. I would say the most common would be sole proprietor, which is an individual operating the business all by themselves. And then probably following that would be a corporation, which is a completely separate legal entity from yourself. And then we also have partnership. So if 2 or more people are going to agree to carry on business together, that would be a partnership. I do want to briefly mention there are other things like society, nonprofit, cooperatives, and social enterprise. We won't have time to go through those today, but just know they exist. Definitely, if you're interested in any of those, take the time to do a little bit more research about each of those. But we're going to jump into, again, the three most common types that you'll probably encounter being sole proprietor, partnership, and corporation. So sole proprietor, as I mentioned, is just kind of one person operating the business. Basically, you are the business and the business is you. You're all considered the same thing. The big advantages would be it's very simple to set up and very inexpensive. Again, you get to make all the decisions yourself and you get all the profits and a little bit easier accounting requirements. Having said that, there are some drawbacks. A few disadvantages would be unlimited liability, which means that should anything happen under the course of business, you would be personally liable for that. So there's a bit of a risk there. Again, the owner assumes all debts and liabilities and obligations with the business. There could be a lack of continuity because the business is attached to you. Again, you don't have any business partners. It could be you could have some challenges in raising capital because again, you can't issue shares and you don't really have much name protection with sole proprietor. Next, we have partnership. So again, partnership, as mentioned, it's two or more people agreeing to enter into business together. The big advantage is it's very simple to set up and um, inexpensive as well, so less cost involved with it. The big pro would be you get to share resources with another individual, so your partners or individuals. You share in decision making, in the profit and risk, and a bit easier accounting requirements. Again, there are drawbacks though. Unlimited liability would also be in place here, and that's something to be aware of because all partners become liable. And there's potential for conflict. If you have a dispute with your partner, you're going to have to deal with that. And again, no name protection involved with partnership. And lastly, we have corporation. So a corporation, again, is a completely separate legal entity from yourself. You know you're dealing with a corporation if it's LTD Inc. or LTD Inc. or Corp behind the name. And again, the big advantage is you have limited liability. So what that means is should anything happen under the course of business, usually the corporation would be liable, although that's not absolute. Obviously, if you did anything negligent or fraudulent, you could still be personally liable. So something to be aware of there. That's why it's limited liability. Um, Ownership is transferable and it could have continuous existence. Could be easier to raise capital, again, because you can issue shares. In some industries, it's maybe seen as being a bit more professional, and there could be potential tax advantages with it. But there are some disadvantages. Again, the biggest one being it's definitely more expensive to set up and maintain. A lot more complicated paperwork involved with it, so a lot more record keeping. It is more closely regulated, so there is legislation involved with it, and potentially double taxation of dividends. So how do you actually go about registering? Well, for a sole proprietor, you would register what's called a trade name at a registry office, and you'd fill out the form called Declaration of Trade Name. Usually it's around $100, and it can be done fairly quickly. It's just a one-page form that you need to complete. And the nuance report is optional. And the nuance report basically is a search that's done that lets you see what trade names are available, what partnership names, trademarks, and corporation names right across Canada. Mm. Next, we have partnership. So a partnership, again, you'd go to a registry office, you'd fill out a declaration of partnership, again, around $100. Um, all partners would need to be there to sign and agree to it. It is recommended to have a partnership agreement in place if you are looking to enter into a partnership. So that's something to keep in mind. That's something that you would do yourself or through a lawyer, not through the registry. And last but not least, we have corporation. Like I said, it's a separate legal entity. You know you're dealing with a corporation if you have LTD, Inc., or Corp. Those all kind of mean the same thing. So when you incorporate, you can choose which extension that you want. And when you incorporate, you could choose a provincial or federal corporation. There's just different legislation that impacts each of those. There are incorporation kits that you can purchase if you're interested in doing it yourself. And another option, the more traditional route, is to go through a lawyer and have them help you to set things up. There are 3 forms you have to fill out when you incorporate: your articles of incorporation, your notice of address, and your notice of directors. Again, cost can fluctuate. If you're doing it yourself, maybe $500, $600. If you go through a lawyer, maybe $1,000, $1,500 plus. Um, so kind of see what's going to work best for you. Again, the lawyer can help manage your corporation as well, because there are some additional requirements with it. Um, and those additional requirements would be things like having a minute book. A minute book is basically a binder with about 10 tabs in it where you have things like your subscription for shares, your meeting minutes, your if you need a or want a unanimous shareholder agreement, again, meeting minutes that you hold, your bylaws. If you are incorporating, you are obligated to have those things set up. That's why, again, some people might use a lawyer to help with that. Or again, something like the do-it-yourself kits that are available or websites. And keep in mind your annual return needs to be filed every year. And like I mentioned, the minute book, you most likely will need to be working with an accountant because you'll need to have financial statements prepared every year for your corporation, amongst other requirements. And if you are doing anything a little bit more complex, like holding companies and divisions, you definitely want to consider professional advice. In terms of the costs of those, like I mentioned, the trade name and the declaration of partnership, um, that's just kind of a one-time fee that you would pay. Whereas a corporation, setting it up, that's going to be kind of the main cost. But every year you have to file your annual return at the registry, and there will be a cost associated with that, probably around or under $100 for that. Probably the bigger cost will come from either the accountant and or the lawyer. So kind of keep that in mind relating to some of the costs. Next, step 3, you really want to take the time to research and understand any of the regulations that could be applicable for your own business. And these are set by different levels of government. They could be municipal, they could be provincial, or they could be federal. It is the law. And I think whether you call it license, permit, bylaws, regulations, it's kind of the regulatory side of things relating to your business. So again, take the time to do your research to make sure you are following the law. So first and foremost, there could be municipal regulations that govern what you're looking to do. So if you're going to operate from home, you might be like a home-based business. If you're going to operate from a particular commercial location, um, there could be land use considerations, again, building permit and zoning regulations, safety codes, and business licensing. So there's a lot involved from a municipal level that you should kind of be aware of. And the vast majority of businesses, usually most of them, well, pretty much every business should require a municipal business license from whatever town or city that you're operating. Okay. Now, depending on again, the nature of your business, there could be provincial and or federal regulations. Provincial regulations, again, make sure you take the time to do your research, would be things like food handling permits through Alberta Health Services. If you're doing alcohol or cannabis sales, AGLC. You want to make sure you're abiding by employment standards, rules, and regulations. There could be various consumer protections, and then lastly, industry specific license types. So depending on what you're doing there. Um, some of the provincial licensing and regulation also relates to if you're going door to door, doing door to door sales, there's actually a provincial license for that. So again, do your research and make sure you are following the rules. And lastly, there could be federal regulations. Some of the areas under this include things like products for mass consumption, consumer goods, financial services, things relating to travel and transportation. A few of the example enforcement agencies would be things like Health Canada. Maybe if you're importing or exporting food, that could be applicable. Canada Border Services Agency, again, if you're importing or exporting, and CFIA, Canada Food Inspection Agency, among many, many others. And then next, we have step 4, getting a business number. And much like how you have your own social insurance number, a business number is a unique 9-digit number that's unique for your own business. And normally, if you were to register, let's say through a registry office, you may have been automatically issued one via email. If you weren't, then you'll need to contact Canada Revenue Agency directly for that. Again, a business number is kind of a number to access various services through Canada Revenue Agency. And there could be, like I said, you'll automatically be issued, or you should be automatically issued a business number. But again, there could be various additional program accounts that you may require, depending on what your business operations look like. Examples would be things like GST or HST. So if you're collecting GST or HST, you will require that type of account. Payroll deductions if you're going to have employees. Corporate income tax, if you're incorporated, your corporation will have to pay tax. If you're importing and exporting, that will also be another program account that you might need. And step 5 deals a little bit more relating to taxation. So sole proprietor and partnerships, you're going to claim everything on your personal tax return, your T1. So that's affected by your personal income tax. And if you're doing GST or sales tax, maybe. And a corporation is handled a little bit different. First and foremost, the corporation will pay corporate tax. And then if you decide to take money out of the corporation, usually through like a dividend or salary, again, there'll be taxes coming off there as well. And again, sales tax, GST may be applicable in this situation. And step 6, so there could be other considerations to really think about when you're starting your business. Things like business insurance, really look at exploring that. And there's lots of different types of business insurance. General liability insurance is kind of the broad one, but there are ones for like cyber insurance. If your business, let's say, gets hacked, maybe you require something like that. Errors and omissions insurance, if you're a consultant and you accidentally put the wrong zero in a report that you produce and it causes some bad outcome. So again, insurance will help protect you and your business. You may need to create a separate bank account, especially if you incorporate. It's required to have a separate bank account. If you're going to be a sole proprietor, you could potentially use your own bank account, but that could get a little bit confusing if you have if you're mixing your own expenses with the business. Really think about bookkeeping. So how are you going to keep track of your receipts and invoices? You really want to have a good solid process and system in place for that. Think about your marketing. How are you going to get word out about your business? Do you know who you're targeting? Do you know if you're going to be doing social media or websites? What are the costs involved with that? How will you regularly keep things updated? And next, really think about any written agreements or contracts that you might be entering into. You may want to have a lawyer review and vetting those for you. And lastly, look at building a team, right? Rarely do entrepreneurs go at it alone, right? So again, like I mentioned earlier, maybe you have some cheerleaders to help you out, some family member or friends, and your team could also be like your accountant, your lawyer, maybe a mentor or a retired business owner. That could also comprise of your team. So yeah, that is it in a nutshell, I guess. Those are kind of the three big things to kind of think about areas when starting a business, your planning, your financing, and then actually getting started. So hopefully that provides you with a bit of context relating to, again, some of those bigger considerations to getting things going. And
Awesome.
yeah, thanks,
Thank you so
Linda.
much, David. That was super insightful. It's basically like all the steps we need to start a business. So
Yes.
lots of information to take in, but just remember that this is always available on our YouTube channel if you want to revisit the session. And we still have some time for questions and
Yes. Yeah.
answers. So I do see that we have a few questions here in the chat. Just
Perfect.
please make sure that you're submitting your questions using the Q&A feature just right at the bottom of your Zoom screen so that we don't miss them. But we can go
Okay.
ahead and answer those questions here. And
Perfect.
thank you once
Yeah.
again, David.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Awesome. So, um, we have a question here from Jennifer. She says, did I not know that there was an option to incorporate the business as a corporation only in Calgary or in Alberta, or I misunderstood?
Uh, I guess it depends. I might need a little bit more context there, but if you incorporate, you can either choose a provincial or a federal corporation. So not really municipal, so not Calgary. But having said that, you can create a corporation in Calgary, right? So you could do that at a registry office. You could do that through a law firm. Again, I wouldn't encourage anyone to try to fill out the paperwork themselves if they incorporate. I wouldn't really even do that myself, because it's going to ask you very specific, complicated questions on incorporating, and you want to make sure those are correct for you, because they can come back to haunt you years down the road if you do things incorrect, right? And it can be costly. I've seen entrepreneurs spend thousands and thousands of dollars trying to correct something that if they would have spent a little bit of time or money up front, they could have avoided all of that. So again, going through a lawyer is helpful. Buying a do-it-yourself incorporation kit from the registry is helpful. There's also websites like owner.co, I think it's ownr.co, as one example of online providers. But again, do your research. You don't want to be scammed with anything. I know for sure the registry office you go in person is hopefully legitimate, and a law firm, again, they would hopefully be able to do things correctly for you. And just kind of adding to that, with incorporation, the big difference between federal and provincial, I would say most incorporated businesses probably incorporate provincial. Most lawyers are familiar with provincial corporations. Federal would be if you maybe wanted a degree of name protection across Canada. That might be the case. And there is some added cost involved with federal corporation as well. So yeah, great question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. We have a more tailored question here to the person's situation. And Mohammed says he's interested in investing in an established business and partnering with its current operations. If available, could you please provide the contact information for the entrepreneur?
Maybe you have to repeat that question, Linda.
I think we could be able to connect with Mohammed after the session ends. Mohammed, if you want to connect with us,
Oh, yeah.
you can submit a contact request using our Business Link website,
Yeah.
businesslink.ca/contact, or you can also connect with David directly, also via LinkedIn.
Yeah. And our website is really great. We have a great team of business strategists here who have different levels of expertise and education relating to all types of business. So again, going onto our contact us page on our website and filling out the contact us form will connect you through to one of them. So yeah, that's a great way.
Perfect. We have a question here from Carlene. They say, if I start a proprietorship now, would it be possible to convert it to a corporation at a later date if the circumstances demand it?
Yeah, I would say you can't really change from one into another. It would be more, I would call it like a transition. So you could operate as, let's say, a sole proprietor for a few years, and then maybe when you're going to hire your first employee or take a big contract, you can incorporate at a later date. In theory, you'd have to kind of close down the sole proprietor, open up the corporation, and then transfer any assets you wish from the sole proprietor to the corporation. So you can, I would call it a little bit more of a transition than directly changing it. Yeah,
Perfect.
great
Thank you for
question.
that. We have a question here in the chat from Demi. They say, I'm curious to know more about taxation for a sole proprietor. How do you know how to file correctly? So we did do a webinar earlier in the year with Vartika Satya. She is the owner of her own practice and a tax professional and consultant. So I do invite you to check out that session on our Business Link YouTube channel. She has amazing insights for sole proprietors and also for corporations.
Yeah.
We'll also be
And
doing sessions again with Vartika this February, so
oh,
stay
great.
tuned for that. Mhm.
Yeah, and CRA also has really good information on their website too. Something like a sole proprietor partnership, you could probably figure out how to do your taxes yourself. There's a section called self-employment income on your T1. If you incorporate, on the other hand, the T2 corporate tax return, you pretty much need to be an accountant to figure that one out, right? It's very, very complicated. If you try and do it yourself, you'll probably do something wrong. CRA will get in touch with you. They'll ask you to correct it. You'll probably submit it wrong again, and it'll go back and forth, wasting time, wasting money, and a good chance you could do something wrong, right? And like I said, a lot more regulations governing corporations. You do want to get that professional expertise.
Great, thank you, David. We have a question from Judy. It says, do you get government grants to operate your business? And if so, where do you start in getting this in place?
That's a good question. I wish there was tons of free money available out there to start a business. If there was, I'd probably have 100 businesses underway, and I don't. Um, like I said, kind of grants, you have to meet very specific criteria. I would say don't really rely on them to start a business. It really depends on what your business activities are, but there could be something very specific available. Do your research. A really good website is the from the Government of Canada. It's called Business Benefits Finder, and it's a free website that you can use to help search to see maybe what grants or other programs might be available for you.
Perfect. Yes, I'm actually going to put the link here in the chat for everyone who's interested in learning more about the Business Benefit Finder. And in the meantime, I have
Yeah.
one more question for you, David,
Oh,
before
and I
we
just want
go.
to mention, just be careful. There are a lot of scams out there
Yes,
relating to government grants. If it sounds too good to be true, um,
probably.
it probably is, right? So, again, be very careful. There really just isn't free money available to start a business. It's very specific, right? So it might be
Mm.
if you spend at least $500,000 on farm machinery equipment and you own at least 100 hectares of land and you have to be growing corn, you could get a 10% subsidy back from that, right? So again, just very specific purposes, but do your research. See if there might be something out there you can take advantage of. A lot of the areas where things there could be something would be like for nonprofit. Um, it could be for arts and culture, research and development activities, and then also wage subsidy programs as well, like hiring a summer student. So again, those are some of the core areas. And yeah, the
Thank
name
you.
of it is Business Benefits Finder is the name of that website search that you can do.
Awesome. And one last question here from Pilar. It says, I have registered federally. I want to register in Alberta. What do I need to do?
Registered federally, I think there might be a few things you need to do. But if you've registered federally, a corporation, let's say, you do need to extra provincially register that corporation in Alberta still. And you would do that at a registry office. But again, if you're incorporating, you probably would be working with an accountant. definitely engage with them because they might have a little bit more knowledge. It's a bit more of a lawyer thing, but some accountants can help with that. So that would be something that you need to also look at doing. But yeah, great question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. And thank you, David, for all of the
Yeah.
insights and, just taking the time to answer everyone's question and sharing your time with us today on Small Business Week. Such a busy time for us, but just super excited to be able to be here with everyone. Fortunately, this wraps up today's session. I would love to stay with you all, but we only have 1 hour for this session.
Yeah.
So once again, thank you. And just remember to watch for the recording on your inbox. It will be made available on our YouTube channel. Please make sure that you complete the pop-up survey at the end. Your feedback really helps us improve our webinars and sessions. Remember that you can also book a free one-on-one meeting with our business strategist anytime at businesslink.ca/contact. You can also stay connected with us following Business Link on our Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube channel. And we hope to see you at our upcoming Small Business Week events in Calgary and also on Friday. If you're interested in learning how to start your side hustle, we'll be hosting a webinar in partnership with Futurepreneur. So stay tuned for that as well. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Any
Yeah.
last remarks, David?
No, just yeah, best of luck with everyone with their hopefully unique, creative business ideas. Yeah, again, feel free to connect with any of our business strategists. We're here to help support you. So again, yeah, thank you for sharing your time with me. And yeah, best of luck in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.